Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on November 28th, 2025. Today is the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, and I think we need a reminder of what we were giving thanks for. I have ancestors on the Mayflower, and they fled Europe because they wanted freedom. They wanted to have the ability to choose their own future and their own system of beliefs. And they were saved by the original inhabitants, the natives there. And later, my ancestors moved to Canada, along with the original native tribe that helped us back then. And we still live together in peace and prosperity, and we never broke our promise to them. However, the people who came afterwards slowly started to enslave the people of the United States. And I've just was sent some proof of what I've always been saying, which is that the United States is now under a system of Babylonian debt slavery. Take a look at this video showing exactly how we are collateral for this money that they're creating out of nothing. Basically, we are the slaves they're using to create money.
The United States government got a UCC filed on everyone. So I said, prove it. He said, go to maryland.org.ucc. Scroll down. Do a number search. Put in this number right here. Okay, y'all, follow me. I was following them. Because I wanted to see the outcome. So I was patient. Then when I was done, all of a sudden, it was like everything popped right up. Look at that, the Federal Reserve System, United States Department of Defense Accounting Services. So I decided to scroll down some more, get a good overlook, check things out. Then I went deeper. Y'all know me. I like to do a little bit of that investigation. Hit the button. And look what popped up. Oh yeah, all of the fees and how much they paid. How much they paid to file their filing for your body. Hey, it was $198 though for the whole complete process. And that was for them. Hell yeah, certified. They wanted a certified copy. And here's their UCC financial statement. Y'all see who is the debtor? Debtor 2. Debtor, who is the secure party? The United States Treasury. And look at the bottom. Don't forget every check mark box. You want to know everything over here. Let me go to the addendum, the UCC 3. And look what else they filed. Look what they claimed in here. Look who's the debtor in here. Look who's the debtor in here.
Department of Defense.
And look how much. And look at what they claimed. All real men with hands and legs. And all real land in the United States of America. And look at that number. Wow.
That is proof that we are under a system of slavery, and we need to do something about it. And this is something that is happening in a way that we're starting to understand. And a lot of people now, I think the majority understand that it's Israel is the problem. And it's these billionaire oligarchs who are the problem. For example, take a look at this Nick Fuentes explaining how IPAC really does its job. It goes via billionaires using money created out of nothing.
AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. When you look at the biggest contributors, the biggest lobbies in politics, AIPAC doesn't tend to show up. Why is that? It's how AIPAC operates. AIPAC doesn't actually do a lot of direct giving to a particular politician, but what they do is they manage a number of different billionaires and their political giving. So they'll find the candidate they like, and if that person pledges allegiance to Israel, they'll pick up the phone and they'll call their group of donors, and all those donors will give as individuals. This way it doesn't show up on the paperwork. This is one of the ways it's concealed and obfuscated. In the last cycle in 2024, AIPAC marshaled $100 million to spend. But what did AIPAC do specifically? They singled out every congressman that voted against foreign aid to Israel last April. They funded primary candidates that would take the nomination from the incumbent.
My own investigation into this matter, I'm a journalist. I try to get information that no one else has and put it out to the public, because otherwise I would not be doing my job. And we know that Donald Trump was bailed out by the Rothschilds, and the power structure, this control grid that we are under, it leads to the Rothschild family. And in fact, the forensic evidence goes to Jean-Michel de Rothschild, known to us as Brigitte Macron. This is a cross-dressing mass murderer. And French intelligence called me and said that this Macron was responsible for the murder of Donald Trump. Now, we need to talk a little bit about Donald Trump, because he is basically an avatar for a long-term plot that they've had for us, for our future. And there are different factions using the Donald Trump avatar. And the good Donald Trump was backed by the Harriman Group. And the actual Donald Trump, original one, died in 1989 in a helicopter crash. And you can tell his face changed, everything changed before 89 and after 89. And the Trump who was elected in 2024 again was the 6'3" tall good guy avatar Trump. And he was, he set up this Department of Government Efficiency and was trying very hard to rescue the United States from bankruptcy and drain the swamp. And he disappeared in June. He went to the G7 summit in Canada and he never returned. So after that, suddenly we have this short, fat, ugly Trump, the one that we're still seeing on our screens, suddenly declaring war on Iran and trying to start World War III, and sucking up to Israel, and it became a nightmare scenario. And this is the Trump that we need to deal with. And again, the person who ultimately ordered the murder was Jean-Michel de Rothschild. And I have some names of the top people in that murder group. This is actionable intelligence. We need to go after Jean-Michel, and we need to go after Alexander Benalla, Patrick Strzada, Bernard Emily, okay? And these are the people who are ordering the hits on people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Candace Owens and General Douglas McGregor. And they need to be eliminated from the system. This is what we have to do if we're going to free ourselves from this Babylonian debt slavery system we're under. And the other thing that we need to understand is that the system is now falling apart. It cannot maintain itself anymore. For example, they're now trying to put out 50-year mortgages, which means if you look at a 50-year mortgage, here's how it works. For the first 25 years, you only pay interest, basically. And it takes 50 years to finally pay off the house, and you end up paying $1.4 million for a house that was worth $400,000. This is how they extract money from us. And it's got to the point where we can no longer afford houses. And now take a look at this little BlackRock video.
We don't buy these houses to live in. We buy them in bulk, shrinking the number of homes on the open market, skewing mortgage rates, and exacerbating the housing crisis. Then, thanks to low supply, we charge whatever we want for rent. It's all part of our company motto. Fuck you!
These people really do artificially keep the price of houses high enough so that we have to basically work for a whole lifetime to pay for a house. So, houses should only cost about $10,000 if you think about the materials and the labor and stuff. But no, they want us to be in a system of lifetime debt slavery. And they realize that their system is falling apart, which is why they've been desperately trying to start war, trying to kill us, and we're waking up. Most people now are aware of the Epstein Islands and the fact that we are ruled by a group of people who torture and murder children. And if you want to become a leader in the West right now, you have to be filmed torturing and murdering a child. This has now been proven. There's countless testimony. I've posted some very disturbing photographs of people like Barack Obama torturing that little Japanese girl to death. These people are really, really criminal, and they're really, really scared right now because they know that they're going to face war crimes tribunals. My own sources in Polish intelligence tell me that Vladimir Zelensky and his top government officials have already fled to Israel, and they will not find shelter there. We're going to go after them in Israel because they killed millions of people. Literally, they set up a fake mercenary company called Wagner, and they pretended it was Russian, and they grabbed all these Ukrainian men, sent them to a specific place where they would be killed with artillery. So this was a genocide of the Ukrainian people to create a homeland for the Ashkenazi Jews, the original Khazaria. This is what was going on. And once the men were killed, the women were taken to, a lot of them, young women were taken, enslaved, and forced to give birth to children. And these children were then sold to, rich perverts to either torture and kill or whatever. This is a sort of system that was existing in Ukraine. And of course, they also set up all these bioweapons factories. I mean, the evil of these people is kind of almost so huge that it's incomprehensible to ordinary people that we could have such criminals as our leaders. And, it's time to end this. Now, the question is, how do we deal with this? The system is going to implode no matter what. That's a mathematical certainty. For example, BlackRock just had some company it owned. It was valued at 100% a week ago. Now it's valued at 0%. If you look behind the numbers, okay, the entire system now is fraudulent. The U.S. government bonds are being bought from the Cayman Islands. In other words, they're not. No one's really buying them. They're pretending that everything is okay when it's not. So how are we going to deal with this? What I have proposed is that in order to get from here to there without mass murder, that we follow the advice of the head of the AFD. And here, watch her talk.
Vielleicht noch eins zu Corona. Es gab so viele Impftote und Menschen mit Impfnebenwirkungen. Allein schon wegen dieser Menschen würde ich mir wünschen, dass Verantwortung übernommen würde. Das kann man nicht wieder gut machen, aber man kann um Vergebung bitten. Und wir können auch verzeihen. Aber sich zu verstecken und die Meinung niederzumachen, das ist etwas, und das verspreche ich Ihnen hoch und heilig hier heute, das ist etwas, wo wir als Alternative für Deutschland hinterhergehen werden und diese Menschen zur Rechenschaft ziehen, wenn sie nicht selbst die Verantwortung übernehmen.
Here we have a group that's about to take power in Germany, admitting that, the current leadership was engaged in mass murder, and they're saying we'll offer you truth and reconciliation in exchange for stepping aside. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but we really do need to get good governments in the West again, or we're all going to be working for the Chinese. And that means we have to set up a transition. Now, what I have proposed to MI6 last week is that we remove the blackmailed pedophile Keir Starmer and put Nigel Farage in as Prime Minister. He can then call for a conference, and negotiations behind the scenes have already resulted in, we have an agreement. The Russians, the Chinese, the Indians, the P3 Freemasons who control the Vatican, the Commonwealth, the Pentagon, they all agree that we need to replace the system of Babylonian debt slavery with a future planning agency that works for the people in complete transparency, trying to create the future they want. This is basically the system China has. They survey their people, find out what they want, and then they try to give it to them using intelligent people. Whereas in the West, we have a very tiny class that's all they're trying to do is figure out ways to rip us off, and they've accumulated so much money they can't spend it, and the rest of us are all poor, and this system needs to be dismantled. And so the idea is to call a conference, sort of like the Bretton Woods, to negotiate the bankruptcy of the United States and the collective West, because they are bankrupt, and the Chinese have agreed to write off all this debt, but the condition, of course, is that we stop being the world's terrorists and stop trying to kill everybody, and instead work together for a multipolar world to make this a better planet. That's what we're fighting for. That's what we've got to do. And there's no alternative. Well, the alternative is going to be street violence, and these people are going to be hung from lampposts, okay? And here's one more video showing, the kind of network behind the fake Trump. Remember, the Space Force had their own Trump, the 6-foot-tall one, and he was working with the white hats. But now we have this dark Trump, putting our faces together with this whole satanic cult.
I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. Thursday night. You're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
I was introduced to him by the lady-in-law Rothschild.
Wow.
And I told...
They're not going to be around much longer, I promise it. We cannot let this continue. We need to free humanity from this scourge, and it will happen. And the key is to get Jean-Michel de Rothschild. Arrest him. Make him talk. He's the head of the snake. This is what the evidence trail leads to. So it's time. We need to end this horror show. I think everybody except them agrees with this now. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. How can we accept any arrest by a member of police or military if the judges are corrupt also? Any police officer I've spoken to in the past would just smile and say to stay away from politics, and that they also want to stay away from politics. Also, Cash, Bogino, and Pam Bondi had a fallout recently. Bogino wanted to leave his position. I think Dan is a man of integrity. Do you have any news about what happened there and then? I believe that they're currently all compromised.
Well, what happens is the top 1, 2, 3 people are compromised, and then the people below that run into a glass ceiling. And I think the answer is going to have to be military tribunals. The system is so corrupt, it's beyond repair. We're going to have to, the military is going to have to set up tribunals, and military justice is swift. That's what's going to be the answer. Next question.
Hi, Ben. World leaders use body doubles, okay, but how can you explain Trump being completely replaced? Where was the Secret Service? Where's the U.S. military, and why haven't they intervened? It would also seem the perfect opportunity for the military to act. Where is the Trump family in all of this, and why are they not saying anything?
Well, they're not saying anything because they'll all be murdered, and they know it. But yeah, the problem is there is a dark hack military working for the Satanists, and most military, unfortunately, are completely conditioned to obey orders. And the problem is when the orders are coming from evil people, the military becomes evil. So the trick is to have the top ranks of the military replaced. I've repeatedly suggested that we use General Douglas McGregor to clean up the military and start the process. But it's going to have to be the rank and file pushing up, and you're going to have to remove any general who has money that can't explain how they got it because they've been bribed and compromised. And this is especially true. I think the Navy and the Marines and the Air Force are relatively clean, but it's the Army itself that has a lot of the corruption at the top. So that's going to have to be dealt with. But yeah, we're all impatient, and some people are going to have to be arrested at the top. Otherwise, this is not going to move forward until things collapse. Next question.
Hi, Ben. You seem to have backed off your assurance that the secret societies would intervene against the cabal and that they were sick and tired of waiting for the U.S. white hats to take any action. Now you seem to be waiting for the U.S. military to step up. Have the secret societies changed their mind, and now are they at the point where they won't move until the U.S. military does?
Well, my advice was always to the Asian secret societies is to not give these people any excuse to start World War III. I also explained to them that time was on their side because they have a superior system of economic management, and now they're so overwhelmingly strong that they don't need to fight. For example, China can make 200 times more airplanes than the United States. And the U.S. cannot build weapons without Chinese rare earths. And even if they wanted to start making their own rare earths, it would take about a decade and super investment to do that. So they're following the advice of that great military genius Sun Tzu, which is to win without fighting. And when Trump went to meet Xi Jinping, and this apparently was not the short, fat, fake Trump we're seeing, but some guy in a mask. He begged for money, and they said no. Eventually, the U.S. government managed to get some silver from the drug cartels to pay their bills until January, but it looks like this is going to end without fighting and without the need for lots of assassinations. because already 85% of the world is free from this cabal. It's just the G7, the Western 15% that's still under control of these murderers. Next question.
Hi, Ben. I was on the air this morning with a conservative talk show host, Jeff Cooner, at the WRKO in Boston, Massachusetts. We discussed the 6 congressmen telling the troops not to obey illegal orders. I told Cooner the congressmen did nothing wrong. Technically, they were right on saying I do not follow illegal orders, although I know, like you do, they were hinting at disobeying Trump. I asked if anywhere did they say to disobey Trump's orders. The answer was no. I went on to say nothing will be done by the 5'10 Trump in the White House, since that is the fake Trump who works for the Rothschilds and Chabad. Cooner started laughing. So I asked him how tall is the real Trump. He said 6'3 or 6'4. I said correct, but that Trump hasn't been seen since June at the G7 summit in Canada. I went on to say the real Trump is dead. Cooner made some more jokes about it. I said, like I've told you before, talk to investigative reporter Benjamin Fulford. Again, as Cooner said to me on an earlier call, that he had never heard of you, as if that's supposed to be credible. By the way, the White House does listen to Cooner's show. By me dropping the pearl of the height problem and death of Trump should raise a stink, since Cooner has a very large radio internet audience. Therefore, I ask you, Ben, if you would give Cooner a call between the hours of 6 and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, Monday through Friday, and surprise Cooner with your information. What do you think you would be able to tell him?
Well, from what I heard, it sounds like he is actually a controlled opposition, and he probably wouldn't take my call. But if you email me the number, I'll try to do that and see. But basically, a lot of the even so-called alternative media is under control of these people, and the test is to see what they say about Israel and what they say about, do they talk about the 450,000 children who disappeared during the Biden administration? Do they talk about the genocide in Ukraine? If not, then they're just controlled, and talking to them is not going to make any difference because they're working for the cabal. But I'll try to do that. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. You've suggested several times that AI won't replace jobs, or that it isn't capable, as some people claim. My concern is that the narratives around AI aligns uncomfortably well with the broader Soros Gates, BlackRock, Rockefeller / WEF vision of you will own nothing and be happy. If AI ever became genuinely capable, it would accelerate that outcome significantly. I have no interest in ending up in a system where we're forced into Bill Gates' synthetic food agenda. How do we prevent this trajectory? My worry is that AI marks an economic tipping point where the wealthy no longer rely on human labor. They could leverage AI to maintain their dominance while the rest of society loses even the possibility of upward mobility. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, in the West, the key to preventing AI control is to make sure we don't get digital currency, because if we all are forced to use digital currency, then they'll be monitoring us 24 hours a day, and if we say something they don't like, suddenly our car won't start, or we won't be able to go to buy groceries. So they're trying to set up a system of complete slavery, and the way to avoid that is to try to use cash. Personally, I use cash when I don't want someone to know what I'm doing or buying, and when I don't care. So for example, I'll use a card for groceries, but maybe I'll use cash to buy alcohol because I don't want them to know how much I'm drinking, stuff like that. But try to avoid that. The other thing, and this is the real danger, right now AI is not a threat because it does not control the physical world. It cannot make anything, and so it's not real. However, China is now building AI-powered robots, and they're saying that within 2 or 3 years that we won't be able to tell the difference between a robot and a human being. And if we have an AI that takes over control of the robots, then they could start making weapons, and that's the real danger. And so we need to talk to China about those robots before it's too late. But overall, I'm pretty sure that China is now under the control of the white hats, and they have been purging a lot of the cabal, who were there, who were behind that, men in white suits, complete slavery. They tried under COVID. So I think we'll be able to make a deal with China, and we'll make sure that we never get ruled by a rogue AI. But it's time to fight. We really are at a turning point now. And I'm doing everything I can to try to end this nightmare, and I want everyone else who's listening to try to do the same. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today, and I hope to see you again next week.